There we go. Hi, everyone. Thanks for your patience with us today as we're working out a few tech issues. We want to welcome you and thank you for joining us today for our distance learning focused differentiating instruction webinar. We know this has been a really challenging time for all of us in education, and we really hope that the resources that we're going to share with you today will be helpful. This webinar is being recorded, so we will email that recording to you later on this week. And please feel free to share freely and widely amongst all of your colleagues. We're going to go ahead and start with introductions.
So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. June is always a busy month and it's proving to be another busy month this year. My name is Jennifer Hearn. I'm in the Resource Services Consultant role at Trillium Demonstration School, where I've been for the last 5 years, sometimes in a teaching role and most recently in this role. And Wendy and I together in this role provide professional development opportunities for teachers in Ontario. And we also help support students who are applying to the program. And if you'd like to know more about the program, we have another webinar coming up on June 15th. We can go over that with you, or you can talk about that with us by just sending us an email. Over to you, Wendy.
Thank you so much, Jen. Hello, my name is Wendy Farkas. I also work in resource services with my colleague, Jennifer. I'm seconded from the Waterloo Region District School Board. Just a little bit of background about me. I was a technological education teacher for many years with the Waterloo Region and then moved into a more focused role in special education. I'm really enjoying my role here. In this role, we get to reach out to all of you and lots of schools and students across Ontario to offer our support. So I'm really excited to be here with you today. Over to you, Fleur.
Hi, my name's Fleur Lay. I am a seconded teacher from Halton District School Board, and I am a Trillium teacher. So I'm a classroom teacher and I teach high school students. And I was a CERT at a school in Burlington. So it's great working at Trillium. Love the kids and love the learning, and especially love the learning from Wendy and Jan. So enjoy the workshop.
Okay, I'm just going to stop streaming my video so that I can navigate through all of our tech issues today, and then we'll move on. So we just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of what today's webinar will look like. We're going to take a quick look at some of our Zoom features. You can see us, but we cannot see you. So please use the Q&A room below for any questions that you might have. And Fleur is going to be monitoring that Q&A and chat room. And we will also pause later on to answer any questions. Many of the materials and resources that we're going to share with you today have been acquired through lots of research, collaboration with other boards, professional development, professional readings, and even social media. So we really hope that these resources will be shared amongst all of your colleagues and provide some support as we continue to develop relevant and engaging lessons for all of our learners. We also want to highlight some ways in which you can engage struggling or distracted learners in this online environment.
Thanks, Wendy. And I did not mention that I am seconded from the Upper Grand District School Board, and I know I've got a few Upper Grand District School Board colleagues online joining us now, so welcome. It's nice to see you. Now, getting into the topic of differentiated instruction and the universal design for learning. An always really important topic, and even more so, how do we reach these students in this type of a learning environment? So at the beginning of the presentation, we have a few slides we're going to outline with everybody on what differentiated instruction is and looks like, and what the universal design for learning is. We're not going to go too much in depth, but we do want to bring us all to the same starting point. So the differentiated instruction and the universal design for learning are identified in the Learning for All document as effective instructional strategies. The image that you see here on your screen today, you may have seen a version of that before, but we're going to talk through it now. So in the first frame, we have equality represented. Everyone gets the same thing. So here are a group of people watching a ball game at the park, and they are on the outside of the fence. And in order for equity, each person was given the same step stool so that everyone could see over the fence. This works for some, but not for others. In the second frame, the support has been differentiated. Each person gets what they need, which you can still see poses some problems. Although they're all at the same height and can now have equal access to visually seeing the game, you can see that there are some concerns with this in place, especially the safety around stacking these step stools for gentlemen with mobility difficulties. And in the third frame, we take it a step further and remove the barrier from the very start. This represents the universal design for learning. So to go into them a little deeper, there are two effective approaches for teaching and learning. Differentiated instruction is tailoring instruction to the student's needs and interests. It could include providing alternative instruction and assessment activities. It's challenging students at an appropriate level, using a variety of groupings to meet student need. Flexible groupings allow teachers to assign different tasks to different students. And we can differentiate the content and the levels of difficulty, the process, depending on what students need, and the product, having various ways for the students to show what they know. For the universal design for learning, it's the idea that teaching strategies and materials and tools that respond to the needs of learners with special education needs can be useful for all students. An example of this would be the use of assistive technology, and we're diving right into a lot of technology in this webinar, including assistive technology. It is vital, especially now in these times, that we practice the core concepts of the universal design for learning. So we want to look at universality and equity. So we want to plan learning activities that extend the learning of all students. We need to be flexible and inclusive. We need to simplify the platform and the learning environment for the students and offer clear expectations, descriptive feedback, and scaffolded instruction. And when we're using the universal design for learning as teachers, we need to consider and provide multiple means of engagement, representation, and action and expression. And in this webinar, we are going to go through that. So Wendy, can you head to the next slide? This is a nice visual of the entire process of differentiating. So a student with a learning difference may require accommodations and modifications to their instructional strategies as well as assessment methods. And these can be recorded in the student's IEP, which still are in place during distance learning. So in today's webinar, we're highly focusing on the instruction part. There's some elements of feedback. Next week's webinar, which is on Monday, the 8th, if you have not registered for it, please do so. We are following through on the same theme. We're going to pick up where we left off with the instruction, moving into feedback and assessment. Next slide. Here's another way to look at differentiating instruction. When we're differentiating for students, it's flexible, it's moving, it's fluid. So assignments are provided to students and teachers are reflecting on how the student is managing in the situation with distance learning and with what's being provided, coming back, looking at it again and responding to differentiating. We'll go to the next slide. And again, this is an ongoing cycle, which will vary from student to student and topic to topic. So teachers can differentiate the content, the process, and the product according to student readiness, interest, and learning profile. So that's our background on differentiated instruction and the universal design for learning. And as we move through the webinar, we're going to get into some really good stuff, technology tools and ways to engage your students. And we're going to continually come back and revisit how the tools we're providing and modeling for you can be differentiated, and how providing them is providing the universal design for learning. So when you're benefiting what some students actually need, you're going to be benefiting all students in this environment. Thanks, Wendy. off to you.
Thanks, Jen. In this climate, we felt that it was really important to discuss synchronous versus asynchronous learning. Our comments are based on our collective experiences with distance learning at Trillium Demonstration School and some of the knowledge that we've gathered on the LD profile. When we're considering synchronous versus asynchronous lessons, we think it's really important to strike a balance. So meeting with students regularly in a synchronous environment will help to maintain the relationships that we've worked so hard to build throughout the school year. At-risk learners will be more engaged and participate when they know that you care and are invested in their success. Doing live check-ins can help to connect you to your students and provide a platform for encouraging feedback and support. However, students with learning disabilities and ADHD may struggle to maintain focus and attention during your live lessons. So if you're going to deliver synchronous lessons, consider maybe recording the lesson and sharing it with the students so that they can rewatch it later on as many times as they need to reinforce new learning or important concepts. So for example, you noticed at the beginning that Jen, Fleur, and I started with our video feeds on because we felt it was really important to make a connection to you. We wanted you to see us and see where we are and what we look like. And then we chose to turn off our video feeds. This is something that we do regularly in our classrooms, as I know that we sometimes get concerned with privacy issues, and it's something that you can ask your students to do as well. So if the student is sitting in their bedroom, for example, and it's something that you're not comfortable with, asking them to turn off their video feed can help move the process along. Screencastify and Vocaroo are also really great tools, and we're going to talk about them a little bit later on to help you to record your lessons if you're offering lessons in an asynchronous environment.
Wendy?
So, yes.
Just before you go on, I just want to mention to our attendees that all of the information we're sharing today, the entire slide deck will be shared with you, but we also have a swag bag for you at the end with live links to all of these tools we're mentioning. So I don't want you to feel like you have to get this all written down in the time that we're presenting. We will review that with you at the end. Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks so much for that, Jen. And we will send that swag back out to you via email with the recording of this webinar today. So we're going to talk a little bit about accessibility and equity during distance learning. Many of us have had to recreate materials that we've previously used in the regular classroom environment. Posting materials online does not necessarily mean that they're accessible, however, to our LD learners. Students with learning disabilities often struggle with tasks that require reading and writing to demonstrate knowledge. So when we're sharing digital worksheets, we have to ensure that they're in an accessible format, such as a Google Doc or MS Word document. That would be the easiest way to do it. Now we know that's a little bit of work, but that's the easiest way for them to access it because your LD learners will be able to use text-to-speech and speech-to-text functions on Google Read and Write or Immersive Reader if you're using Microsoft products in your board. However, if you're forced to scan worksheets and share PDF files, ensure that students have access to a text annotation tool such as DocHub or Kami. Now I know some boards have red tools, so you may not have access to some of these tools, but most boards do have some version of a text annotation tool that your students should have access to. These tools will convert a PDF image into an optical character recognition file. So know that a standard PDF is more like an image or a picture. It's not readable or writable on Google Read and Write and Immersive Reader. So let's take a look, for example, at the worksheet that I've put on the right of the slide for you. So this is a PDF that I scanned, and then I uploaded it to my Google Slide as a background. So then students can create text boxes and they can type on top to complete the worksheet. Sounds like a great hack, right? But Google Read and Write will not read the words on this file. You can also create audio files or screencasts to record instructions for your lessons to minimize the amount of reading required for the student to understand and complete tasks. Next, we're going to talk to you a little bit about the flipped classroom model. Over to you, Jen.
Thanks, Wendy. The flipped classroom is an instructional strategy and a type of blended learning that reverses the traditional learning environment by delivering instructional content, often online, outside of the classroom. It moves activities, including those that may have traditionally been considered homework, into the classroom. This is a good platform for creating assignments during distance learning, as the students can preview the materials needed for the next day's class or the next week's class ahead of time. Because it's on a shared platform like a classroom, or you can email it out to the kids or share it on a D2L platform, the students can review and the material as many times as needed to be prepared for that lesson. This is a good platform creating assessment as learning and opportunities through conversations, observations, and products. And we're going to go more into that in the next webinar. YouTube and Vimeo are great sources of educational activities, or you can create your own Screencastify. You can record your screen or browser while you move through a lesson, activity, or slideshow. Screencastify is also a great tool for students to use to present their learning, such as in summative projects. Now, the Minister of Education did recommend, depending on the grade level that the students are in, but for our junior, intermediate, and senior students, the Minister of Education did recommend that we cover the big ideas in the curriculum that the students are receiving. The flipped classroom approach is a really, really great way for you to integrate curriculum expectations into a project, present the students with that activity, those activities ahead of time for them to access when they have the time, when they have a device available, and before class, so that when you pull all the kids together for your class, you are ready for the classroom activity and you can work on it with them and support them through that. We'll go on to the next slide.
Thanks for that, Jen. Just a quick reminder to everybody online, if you do have any questions or any comments about the materials we're sharing or discussing today, please do feel free to type that into our Q&A room. You'll see that if you click on your screen and look down on the bottom of the screen, there's a Q&A option or a chat room option. Feel free to drop your questions and comments in there, and Fleur is going to monitor that for us. If it's something she can answer on the spot, she will, but we're also going to pause for questions a little bit later on. So now we're going to dive into some really neat instructional tools that we can use during the distance learning process. Flipgrid is the first one that we'll talk about. Flipgrid is an online platform that allows teachers to ask questions to their students. Students respond to the teacher in either an audio or a video format. This provides the LD learner with the opportunity to demonstrate their understanding and learning orally, thus reducing the amount of writing required to move through the curriculum successfully. Students can also respond to one another, providing valuable peer support and feedback, which can be used to create a sense of community in an online environment and help those kids to master skills and solidify all of their new learning. So I'm going to try to really quickly show you Flipgrid. So this is my Flipgrid account, and it's really easily accessible. It's free. So I've uploaded an image. You can choose any image you like, and I've given it a title for today. I'm calling it Distance Learning. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to show you a Flipgrid that a teacher in the Flipgrid community posted. This one is not mine. So I'm going to open it up, but see what's happened here is the teacher can upload a video, which she's done here. She's uploaded a short animation for students to watch. And then she is able to pose some questions to the students. The exciting piece is there is an immersive reader here. So if you are teaching an LD learner and this is too much language for them, they can click on the immersive reader and they can have that script read to them. Students then, after they've watched the video and reviewed the questions, would add a response. Down at the bottom of the screen, there would be an option for them to add a response. Well, there it is, record a response. And they would be prompted to either record an audio or a video file of them responding to the questions or reflecting on the questions. and share that back with the teacher and their classmates as well. So next we're going to talk a little bit about differentiating using G Suite for Education. In Google Classroom, you're able to assign individualized assignments to each student depending on the expectations in their IEP. Google Forms will allow us to create tests, quizzes, surveys, and more using a variety of response formats, whether it's true or false, multiple choice, short answer, checklists. This can reduce the writing expectations significantly for LD learners. Forms can also be individualized for each student, and data is then collected and can be converted into multiple formats. Minddomo is also another great G Suite tool. It's mind mapping application. Students can work individually or collaborate with peers virtually to create mind maps. Images, video, and audio clips can be inserted as well. The mind map can be then converted into a paragraph outline in Google Docs. We've mentioned before Google Read and Write. We use this one a lot at Trillium. We're a G Suite school, but I know that some of you out there are still using Office 365, and that's great as well. So rather than using Google Read and Write, you could be using Immersive Reader. Google Read and Write is a powerful tool that supports students who have difficulty using text to communicate. The text-to-speech and speech-to-text functions allow the student to focus their energies on reasoning and thinking rather than decoding or encoding. It has other tools in it as well, such as highlighters, word prediction, and a dictionary tool that students can use. Google Slides and Google Draw are also great tools that we use with our students to create, edit, and collaborate online to create oral presentations. The other thing we wanted to point out, since we're talking about Google Classroom, is feedback. As Jen mentioned earlier on, we're going to dive a lot more into feedback, assessment, and evaluation in our next webinar on Monday. So please do sign up for that one if you haven't already done so. But when we're providing feedback through comments on Google Docs assignments, we want to note that some students may actually struggle to read those comments. So Mote is a new Chrome extension that I'm really excited to talk to you all about today. It's a really powerful tool for providing audio feedback to students who may be struggling with reading or writing. So I want to show you quickly how it works. I'm just going to click. This is what it looks like. So you would go to your Google Play Store to download it, and it is a Chrome extension. I'm going to click on this demo here for you to see. So you can see there's a little sort of purple icon in the right. What happens is that will appear when you go to enter a comment on an assignment. When you click on that little purple icon, it will prompt you to make a voice recording. And so that creates an audio file that the student can listen to, but it actually also transcribes what you're saying. So the student can choose to either listen to the file, or they can choose to read the file, read the feedback. You can also insert YouTube video links though on Google Comments to help reinforce concepts maybe that a student is struggling with, as well as Vocaroo links and recordings, which we'll talk about shortly. Okay, so how do we keep distracted students engaged while they're working at home? Some of them are sitting in their bedrooms. They're sitting on their comfy sofas. So here we created an animated image paired with an audio recording to create some interest to our presentation. So it kind of looks a little like my Bitmoji is talking to you. The audio file that I'm going to play was created using Vocaroo, which is an online free voice recording application where you can record voice messages and afterwards share them with others via email or link. This is also a great platform that can be used to enable students to record short audio clips of themselves to share their thoughts and knowledge with others. So if you're having distance learning conversations with students, if you want them to respond to a question, this is also a tool that you can use. You can have them upload an audio recording on your Google Classroom of them responding to a question or maybe elaborating more on an important concept. Make distance learning engaging and interactive to ensure participation of students who tend to be easily distracted. Try using interactive Google Slides, Boom cards, animated images, collaborative activities such as Jamboard, or exciting digital escape rooms. Check your swag bag for samples. So as Jen said, all of these tools that we're sharing with you today and lots of templates that we created for you will be all gathered in one really cool spot where Jen has created a digital swag bag for you that will be shared via email later on today. All right, Fleur, do we have any questions? Let's take a pause.
There is one question. Do students need to download, I think it was Flipgrid, and create a login?
That's a really good question. So the teacher, when they are creating a Flipgrid account, will have to enter a little bit of data. I logged in with my G Suite account. And then once the teacher creates a Flipgrid, a code is generated. Sorry, I've got my camera at the wrong angle, guys. A code is then generated, so the teacher can copy that code and send an email to the student, or they can link it and share it directly from their Google Classroom there as well. It's a blue hyperlink. So once the student clicks on the code, they're going to be prompted to create a free account as well. And it's really quick. They just log in through their Google account or another email address.
And the other nice thing with Flipgrid is you can make a classroom that is essentially private. So you can set up the parameters of sharing around that. So the assignments and the work that gets posted isn't necessarily out there for everybody to see and access. You can create those limitations with just inviting certain students and have it a very closed and secure system.
Okay, there are two other questions. One is, do students need Mote on their devices to listen to comments? That's one. And the other was, what was the name of the voice recording website you used to record your voice for the talking Bitmoji?
Okay, so the Bitmoji itself, I just downloaded the Bitmoji app on my phone and I created that and then I sent it to myself. And there is, what is the name of the tool? Muglife. Muglife is the tool that I use to turn that into an animation and turn it into a GIF. Vocaroo, so www.vocaroo.com is that free online voice recording app. You don't need to create an account to use it. It's web-based. You just go right to that link. It's going to be shared in your grab bag as well. So you'll be able to access that.
And there's one other, and I think that's the last one. So Jennifer from HDSB has said that we aren't allowed to use Flipgrid in HDSB. Is this similar to Google Classroom?
No, I would say, so you can look at Flipgrid as an online virtual classroom, but it's more of a means to connect with students and allow them to share their thoughts either like orally, really. So if Flipgrid is not allowed in your board, you could just stick to the Google Classroom format and use a tool like Vocaroo to create audio files and ask your students to create Vocaroo audio files to share thoughts with you as well. So if you have an LD learner who's struggling with writing an essay, they could do it orally, they can record it on Vocaroo and they can share it with you.
And those are all the questions.
Okay, great. Just going back to Mote really quickly, I'm sorry, I didn't get the opportunity to answer that question. No, they don't have to have Mote installed in order to hear the audio file. But if you're not comfortable, like if you're using a school device and you're not comfortable installing Mote on your toolbar, you could also use Vocaroo, which is what I've done a lot. So you would just create a quick recording on Vocaroo to give them feedback, copy the web link that it spits out for you, and paste it onto your Google comment. All right, we're gonna have a little bit of fun with you now. So now it's time to test your knowledge. Are you guys ready for a breakout challenge? So Fleur, I'm gonna ask you to go ahead into the chat room and can you please give them this web link here?
Okay.
Copy and paste this web link to the chat room. As soon as Fleur shares that with you, we'll get started.
Okay, not sure. Okay, can't. Won't let me do.
I'll do it. I think I
Okay.
can do it here.
Yeah.
That's okay. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second, guys, and I'll paste it to you in the chat room. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, so you've got a Flippity link in your chat room. I've sent it to everybody. What you need to do is you need to open that web link on your browser, but don't get started quite yet. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and I will give you the instructions. All right, so hopefully you've been able to copy that web link and open it up in your browser. I'm going to start by playing the scenario for you.
You and your colleagues are on a quest to find the ever-elusive and engaging Screen Master. You must open these 3 locks to go through the door. You have 2 minutes to get through before the Screen Master is trapped on the other side forever.
All right, so you're going to open up that.
You and your colleagues are on a
Whoops.
quest to find.
Sorry, guys. You're going to open up that Flippity link that we gave you, and you have 2 minutes to solve the clues. Oh, there we go. All right, and time is up. I hope that you guys were able to access, sorry about that. I hope that you guys were able to access that. So the reason why the alarm went off again is when I inserted the audio file on the slideshow, I had it queued to automatically play when we got to this slide to grab your attention. Fleur,
Yes.
were they able to participate? Are there any comments or questions in the chat room?
There were the second, when unlock, trying to type learning for all, can't get lock number 2. So
Yeah,
some
it
people said
is.
was fun. Some people must have got in, said it was
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, some of it worked. The
So
L
what
has
I'd recommend is if they're going to use this tool, try to
Mhm.
keep it to one-word answers,
Mhm.
because it's specific to what you write, and it's also case sensitive. So you'll cue your students and let them know that they need to type all lowercase or all uppercase or whatever that might be, and only to put in a one-word answer. Because for example, if the answer was learning and I put learning for all in, then it would keep saying it was wrong. Okay, but just a little bit of fun. So that was created, the breakout was created using a tool called Flippity.net. Flippity is a series of web apps that can turn into a Google spreadsheet, into interactive online flashcards, games, and activities. Also, the cool thing about it is that since it's a web-based tool, it's compatible with Google Read and Write.
Can I just ask if we can just answer one more question before
Sure.
we go back to the main presentation? So someone's asked if Mote and Vocaroo are the same. So I use Mote, so I'm not able to answer that question. I could just focus on one piece, but I just thought I'd pass that off to you, Wendy.
Okay, great. No, Mote and Vocaroo are different. So Vocaroo is web-based. So you would just go to the website www.vocaroo.com and you would be able to create a recording there, which would then spit out for you or save for you a link that can be shared with your students. Mote is a Chrome extension. So if you're going to use Mote, you need to go to your web store and download it. And then it will appear on your toolbar. Once it's there, every time you're in your Google Classroom and you're adding a comment on a student's assignment, you'll see the little Mote icon will appear. It's purple with the white M on it. And you would just click on that and you can create an audio recording that way. I did notice that somebody mentioned that Vocaroo is a red tool in their board as well. And
Yeah.
most laptops and mobile devices have an audio recording option that you can use. So you could create your own audio recordings on your device and save them as an MP3 or a WAV file and upload them that way. Are there any other questions, Fleur, before we move on?
The difference between read and write voice notes and Mote, and I think somebody just put in a comment, Google Read and Write does recordings as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Read and Write is more of a tool that we use for students to be able to access lots of text. It's a Chrome extension, and when they enable it, they can have text read to them, or they can use their speech to text function if they to transcribe what they're saying onto a document. Whereas Mote and Vocaroo are simply, they're more audio recording based communication tools.
Yeah.
So we're just running a little bit over, so I just want to push on because Jen has some really neat resources prepared for you. I think we probably will have to continue until at least 1 o'clock today, but we're going to try and get through it quickly. So please stay with us. If you can't, we totally understand, and we are recording the webinar. We'll send it to you if you do have to leave. Okay, over to you, Jen.
Thanks, Wendy. So now, how are we going to use all of these great tools and combine them into one place to help create an engaging and interactive learning platform to simplify this process for our learners, so they're not looking here and there for all of these extra little bits we've added to make their learning more interesting and to differentiate it? So one really cool thing are learning menus or choice boards, and they're a form of differentiated learning that gives students a menu or choice of learning activities. Choice boards are a great way to give students ownership of their learning, and they are great for giving students flexibility during home learning. Once you've created a choice board, you can create it on Google Slides, and you may also be able to create it on the slide software that comes with the Microsoft platform. And after you've created those, you can save them as a PDF and share these learning menus or choice boards with students. You can share them on their Google Classroom as an email attachment or on any D2L platform. Choice boards and HyperDocs allow students to have access to all of the tools and resources a student will need all in one place. And this could be for a classroom or for a unit or for period 1, for example. So they also really link well to the 21st century competencies as outlined in the EduGains website. I'm not going to go into that. I've got the link for that in our professional learning section of the swag bag. But I want to spend a little bit more time with you on the choice boards and going through the swag bag with you and modeling a few things for you there. So if we could go to the next slide, Wendy, that would be great. Okay, here we have a swag bag for you guys to take home. So on the left, you can see is a link to the slide deck. So you will get that there. We may have to alter the link right now. It doesn't have the audio recording on it, but we will figure that out. Now on the bag, you can see there are 6 icons, and this swag bag is essentially a learning menu, and I'm going to walk you through that. It was created on a Google slide using links to all other slides I created within the slide deck and links to outside sources like websites, videos, and other resources. So let's see, where am I at with that? So these resources were compiled with the collaboration of students and teachers. I just want everybody to know how much Wendy and I collaborate with teachers around Ontario and with our students. And we have been taking a lot of courses ourselves, and we're hoping to compile this to make it useful for you. A lot of the information has come from the EdTech Summit, which is a great way for you to continue your professional development with technology and learning and professional learning. So Wendy, if we could go right to the swag bag itself, if you can open that up in another one, make it live essentially. Okay, so here's a slide. Close. So once it's saved as a PDF, the students or the people who are receiving the learning menu or choice board would then click the icon, and we're going to start with the choice board templates. Wendy's just pulling that up now. All good, Wendy, or do you want me to share my screen? There we go. Okay, when it's in present mode, the links get live. So Wendy, can you demonstrate how when you click the choice board templates, we get a link that takes us right to a folder of choice boards that I've made?
Sure. So slide number 1 is hyperlinked to all of the rest of the slides in your swag bag. And when you click on the thumbnail, it will take you to that specific resource. So I know Jen wanted to highlight some of her choice board templates. I'm going to click on the thumbnail for choice board templates, and it's going to take us to Jen's Google Drive where she's created some templates for you.
Great. Let's start, Wendy, with the virtual tours. This is a really, really fun assignment that our Trillium teachers collaborated together to create. It covers, it's cross-curricular, so it covers the sciences, the geography, the art, the history, the music, and we at Trillium have grades 5 to grade 12, so that all the students were using this platform as a starting point. So all students received this information, and they were asked as an assignment to go on a virtual field trip. The differentiated part came in with the different assignments that the students were assigned. Our grade 5s and 6s had a different assignment based on the work that they found through this choice board than our grade 9, 10, 11s, and 12s. I know Fleur has a higher level literacy class at Empower, and they were really diving into their thinking more so. So let's go on a tour. Let's start with geography. If you could click the geography sticky note, please. And that will take us again into another section. So the idea behind the choice boards, so that we are all aware, is that kids, is it not working?
No, I can't link to it here, Jen, in presentation view, unfortunately.
Oh dear, that's disappointing. Okay, so what happens, let's try another one. Let's go into the one with the signposts.
Okay.
Students these days are really used to menus when they go onto a video screen to play a video game, when they go onto Netflix or whatever device they are accessing to gather information. They are used to looking at menu boards, digital menu boards. And what the avenue that they pick, or the room that they enter, or the signpost that they click, takes them down this new pathway. And so for this particular choice board, this is one where a teacher may make this for their homeroom class. And if you could put it in present mode, I hope it works. This is new for us to actually share the choice boards through. So here a teacher could put in an announcement, good morning. You can insert a motivational message for your students, or any announcements or special instructions. This particular way the choice board has been designed is very sequential for those students who really need high structure and sequence, but will still need choice within that. So if you could click on sign number 1, that's where the students are to go first when they enter this choice board. And here you will be putting what you want your students to do first. You can even add more choice here. You can add images for interest. You can add hyperlinks to resources, videos from the internet. You can link to your own documents that you've created in folders. And you can provide choice here. So the first task may be a warm-up task for, maybe it's a math class, and you could have 2 or 3 activities here that the kids could choose for their warm-up. So door 1 could be warm-up. And when we're done that, the students can return to the home screen by just clicking that link that's there on the left. If Wendy, you can demonstrate that. And I'd like to go into sign 2. Okay, and here, this is where the next step for the kids you want to walk through. So this might, maybe if you're a resource room teacher, you might want to set something like this up for the students in a group you see. First do this, second do that. Now here I've included a link to another interactive activity. It's called Boom Cards. I don't know what the different boards are like, if it's a red tool or not, but this is a free, these are free. I searched online, I found one that came with a really high rating. I chose this one because it had an audio file. So Wendy, let's see how well it works on the demonstration mode.
I am still sick. Do not go to school.
And here the students need to pick what kind of a sentence that is. So Wendy's just going to start at the left and click the options below so we can see some live feedback. No, it's not a fragment. Yep, it's a run-on. And then we go to the next one. And Wendy can click the audio. It lessens the amount of text the student has to navigate.
School today, the nurse said I was all better. I went to class.
And again, you can see there's 3 choices there. The students get live feedback as to how they're doing. And this is a nice activity to include in a choice board. So let's go back, Wendy, and we'll look at one more choice board quickly.
Sorry, Jen, just bear with me a moment.
I know, it takes a bit of time.
Which one would you like to look at?
Let's look at the doors.
Okay.
This is in a very rough stage. This is a template. And when we click on door 1, so this is where you might ask a group of students to complete either task 1, task 2, or task 3. And once they enter the task, this is where they can add text. You can add text, visuals, and hyperlinks to the slide. Here you can post what the assignment is and any additional supports they may need, like a video to watch. You can include success criteria, rubrics, and exemplars. You can provide some ways to monitor feedback and self-assessments. And so doors 2 and 3 are set up the same, and it's just an idea for you to try. So these templates are usable. This one in particular is not saved as a PDF yet, so you would be able to copy it into your drive and adjust it according to your needs as a starting point. Let's go right back to the swag bag, and we'll look at some of the other options and the other resources we provided for you. So what we have found working with the students at Trillium, and the teachers have created learning menus for the kids in their various classes. And the feedback we have received is that students feel like they have more control over their learning. They can pace when they're learning. Some teachers have it set up differently. Some have it set up very open-ended, where everybody has been given the same assignment, has been given the same content, but the actual assignment and the product, so to speak, has been differentiated. And in other classes, they've actually, instead of labeling the doors class, task 1, task 2, and task 3, it could say Wendy's door, Jen's door, and Fleur's door. And in that situation, the work can be differentiated there. We may all have the same fluency, which can be linked all to the same fluency document, but I may need some different comprehension strategies than Fleur. Now here in the swag bag, let's click on the instructional tools icon, and hopefully it works. Yes. So here are some links to some of the instructional tools we have mentioned. So here's how we would get to Vocaroo, how to, more information on Google Read and Write, Mote, and Screencastify. For those boards that can use Kami, it's listed there. We can return to the home screen just by clicking that link and returning back.
Can I just jump in and add something really, really quick, Jen?
Yes, please do.
Thanks. We recognize a lot of you are CERTs and ISSPs, and you're really busy right now, and you're supporting classroom teachers. So if you don't have time to go in and learn how to use some of these tools, so for example, Vocaroo, here's the web link to the tool itself, but we've also created a couple of how-to videos for you. So feel free to use those. They're really short and simple, but also feel free to share these as widely and as freely as you like. We just wanted to try to save you a little bit of time because we know how busy you are.
And if you do want to learn how to make a choice board, you're really taking a slide, you're finding images or backgrounds on the web that you can use, and you're creating a text box. You're over top of each icon and including the link either to the PDF, the video, or the other slides in the presentation that you want it to jump to. Think of it like a choose your own adventure. As you get to a certain point, then students get to choose where to go. And it's too bad that the virtual tours choice board didn't work to demonstrate, because it's quite neat how far down one of those portals a student can go. And still get right back to where they need to be. So a teacher, in a sense, is just presenting the one PDF on the classroom. In a math classroom, you could have a protractor right there for the kids to access, a calculator right there for the kids to access. All the tools that students will need to be successful can be included on a learning menu, so they're not searching for this and that and the other. You've front loaded it all for them. And once you've made one, it gets easier and easier to make more.
Can I just jump in for a second? Because we have a few questions.
Yeah.
If this is a good, okay. So, so there are about 4 questions. So do teachers receive the data on how students did on the boom cards?
That's a really good question. I have to look more into that, and I think it depends on how it's set up. I did the one that I demonstrated for you, I found online. So that's a really good question. I'm going to mark that down for follow-up. And if you're joining next week, I'm going to address that, because that could be part of our feedback. So thank you.
And is there a way to change the font type on the sentence lesson? Just thinking ahead for kids who need specific fonts.
Again, that is one that I found that was made by another teacher who is generous to share it as a free link, but you can make your own as well. And when you do make your own, you have full control over the font, and you can think about accessibility. Teachers Pay Teachers has a lot of free ones, and I just went to the website and found them. It was very simple setup. And just really fun and interactive. I don't know how much you might use a boom card necessarily for feedback and assessment, but you can design it so that it is there, but it's also another way for skill development and building and reinforcement of skills. It could be a good warm up to cover something that had been done previously.
Okay, so somebody answered that question. Someone, an attendee in the webinar said, yes, you can get data from boom cards. Says very slick. So somebody else has asked, how do you handle the accountability piece with the choice boards?
Do you want to do that one, Jen, or would you like me to jump in?
I'd like you to jump in, Wendy. You've been doing it with your kids for a little bit now.
Yeah. That's a really good question. So, you know, we recognize that all of our classroom environments are a little different. So, for example, in my language class, we have very small class sizes at Trillium, so I've got 6 kids in a class. So I'm able to develop a choice board that they can kind of pick and choose activities throughout the week. So there are typically 4 to 5 activities. They are not all summative. A lot of them are formative, and they get to decide when they do them. That works for me because I have a class size of 6. But for a teacher that's still teaching larger class sizes, like 30 kids, I think the choice boards could be used, but you would guide them through what to access and when. So, for example, the template that Jen shared or developed for you with the doors on it. It could be Monday is door number 1, or door number 1 could be labeled Monday, or a thumbnail could be labeled Monday, so that you're guiding them through what your expectations are, but in a more visual manner. Just wanted to jump back really quickly because I know we're over time, but one of the teachers had mentioned some concerns over the boom cards. You can also create and customize your own formative activities using Google Slides. So when you get this swag bag, we'll send it out to you later this afternoon. We will make sure that all the links are working. If you click on the student engagement thumbnail, we've shared a couple of interactive slides that we've created with you. One is for a grade 7-8 algebra class where students are being taught to collect like terms. And the other one is a very early language task. And you'll see that you can create your own Google slide by uploading a background and then adding manipulative, sorry, I'm having trouble talking today, and layering those pieces on top as well. So you can create something online that is formative, and they'll receive feedback automatically, but you can customize it to what you specifically need.
Okay, I think we're running out of time, so we will leave the swag bag for you to explore. We do have our contact information and a couple slides that we'll share with you. So if we could just head back to the main presentation, and we will just wrap up. So what is so important right now is that we connect with each other and continue to collaborate more so than ever. We're all very isolated in our homes and with our families, and the best way for us to get through this as teachers and to support our students is to stay connected. So using platforms such as Google+, Google Groups, Google Sites, or Microsoft Teams are great ways for you to start to collaborate with teachers in your school or in your board, or board to board if you've got a friend that you like to work with. Connect with each other and students in the schools through choice boards or learning menus. It's really fun when a phys ed teacher can pop into a language class and get everybody up and doing some DPA for 5 minutes. So consider teacher cameo appearances in other classes, and consider morning announcements as well. Start to replicate some of the routines that the kids really are used to and like in their days. You can include special events in your choice boards, like virtual field trips, sporting events, and digital escape rooms. Kids can go to the museum or theater, and you can choose to do that on a rotating basis. Maybe every Friday is the field trip. Maybe you've got special events. So try to stay connected, gather and share success stories, personal stories, and from other educators. We've got some great people in our resources that you can follow on Twitter or other social media platforms. But let's be creative and stay connected as we navigate through this time. And finally, we have shared with you our contact information. So if there are any questions about today's presentation that you would like clarification on, do feel free to reach out to us. We do realize it's June. You may not have time to implement too much. So it's always fun to take something new you've learned and play with it. Try it out on your kids now and get their feedback. We don't know what September will look like. There may be a balance of distance learning and in-person learning, and hopefully some of these tools will carry you through to the fall. And some will even be really well suited to in the classroom. So choice boards can still be used when we are back in school. It could be a great center for kids to work through and increase digital independence. If you want to learn more about how to create Vocaroos or choice boards or Flipgrids, you've tried on your own and you're stuck, we will help you. Just reach out to us and we can set up a time and we can do a little make and take session as well. So I think that's about it. Thank you for staying longer with us. If you have any other questions about the program or the school, like I say, join one of our upcoming webinars or reach out to us. Fleur, are there any other questions just to wrap up?
There was a question about the EdTech